Welcome to the Darkstream. Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and Archaven Comics. Thanks for tuning in tonight. So we had quite a firestorm of indignation after the video, the most recent Darkstream 2 nights ago. And good point. Happy New Year to everyone. 2018 was definitely a challenging year. Lots of bannings, deplatformings, defundings, a lot of attacks. It's the year that the SJWs in tech and in the media attempted to strike back. But we're still here. And even if we end up not being here, we will be there. So, but tonight I'm going to talk about made men, how the media fakes popularity. And I will address Peterson and Rubin quitting Patreon. I'll even explain why they did and what they hope to accomplish with that. But let me address a little bit of some of why I'm talking about this now. If you look at the over 500 comments in the chat, or the 500 comments on the Darkstream related to Jordan Peterson's IQ, what you'll see is that a lot of Peterson fans are experiencing cognitive dissonance. They believe very sincerely that he is a brilliant man and a thinker of historic significance. That's why I named Jordanetics what I did. That's why I said inside the mind, or a journey into the mind of humanity's greatest thinker. So it was not surprising in the slightest to see Peterson's true believing cultists grasping desperately at every thread, whether it made sense or not, to try to cling to their perception of him. It was really funny. The thing that was really amusing to me was when someone tried to say, well, how do you know that it was the University of Alberta Law School that he got rejected from? And as I pointed out, first of all, we have a very good idea that that is the school because that's where he ended up attending. But even worse was the way that they suggested that, well, maybe he'd gone to a different law school. But the problem is the Alberta Law School was the elite one out there with the highest standards. So if he didn't get into a lesser law school, the implication is even worse. So when you look at the way that Peterson has exploded in popularity and the way that it happened very, very suddenly after a very specific act and moment, and the way that the media responded to that moment, you know that this is not a genuine individual. You know that this is a made man. And Jordan Peterson is very far from the only made man in the media, okay? This is absolutely normal. It's been around for, decades. And it's nothing new, all right? And you see this again and again. Now, keep in mind, a lot of you may not be aware that I was a nationally syndicated columnist in the States. I've actually been nationally syndicated twice for 2 different columns. Technically 3 times since one of my syndicates was acquired by a bigger one. But, and you need to understand that that's fairly rare. It's to give you an indication of how rare it is. I was the 6th columnist in the history of the St. Paul Pioneer Press to be nationally syndicated, even though the paper had been around for something like 130 years or something like that. I don't remember exactly. No, I mean, so I said, and then they figured out who you were. Well, let me explain that. Let me explain a little bit more how it works. So I was the tech columnist. I had worked it out with I was actually mostly writing on games. I was doing weekly game reviews. And they knew that I was a video game designer. And so they really liked the idea of having a genuine video game developer review the games from that perspective. It was all very out in the open. Obviously, I didn't review my own games or anything like that. And I also reviewed games for Computer Gaming World, Electronic Entertainment, the elite gaming publications of the time. In fact, Game Informer was just a little tiny 16-page, paper-thin freebie that was being run by two of my friends, also in Minnesota. And so what was interesting was that the column did really well. And it did well enough that it came to the eye of Chronicle Features, and they syndicated it. So the column was running, at its peak, it was running in 13 different papers around the country, Boston Globe, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I wouldn't say it was a big deal, but it was more than just a little deal, especially because I was, like I said, one of the first in the history of the paper to ever be nationally syndicated. St. Paul has a bit of an inferiority complex compared to the big cities, and so it's something that they were very proud of. They also used me for difficult tech pieces that none of the reporters understood. So I had a good reputation at the paper. I was generally considered to be, quite intelligent for a columnist. And in fact, when the Unabomber released his manifesto, the opinion page editor called me up and said, "Hey, could you please, make some sense of this for us?" And so I wrote a long piece on the Unabomber for the main opinion page. So this was interesting, but what was really educational for me was when the lone conservative on the opinion page retired. His name was DJ Tice, and I think he moved or something, because he wasn't that old. He wasn't retirement age, but he was giving up his column at the Pioneer Press. And so I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity. I can go and write some political editorials, and I know they think well of me. I'm one of the only syndicated columnists that they have. So I was pretty stoked. I thought this would be a great opportunity to sort of break into that market. And so I wrote two pieces that I thought were really good, very timely. And one was a very rational, fact-based piece opposing gun control. And the other one was an economic explanation of why funding a stadium was not a good idea. And so I emailed it to the editor and then arranged to have a meeting with him, like the following week. And he was a good guy. And I really, just so you understand, I'm not bitter about this. I'm actually very appreciative of the fact that the editor told me the way the game really worked. He didn't let me waste my time or waste any effort banging my head against a door that was never going to open. And so I went in and we sat down, and he said, "Look, Vox, you're very bright. You write well. I like your stuff." He said, "But I have to tell you that there is absolutely no way that we're going to give you this spot on the opinion page." And I said, okay, can you tell me why? I mean, this is pretty late. He was very clear. There's no chance. He said, I have to explain to you, or you have to understand that your views are unacceptable, totally unacceptable to our purpose as a editorial board. Your positions are directly opposed to ours. And so there's no way that we're going to put you on there as a representative. You're too libertarian. We can handle a, moderate conservative like DJ, but your views are too diametrically opposed to anything that we will permit. He said, in fact, I don't think it's very likely that you will ever have the opportunity to, appear on an opinion page. Not even the Wall Street Journal. And at the time I was probably, 23, maybe 24. And so, it was a really important lesson to have. And that's why after I was syndicated for my political column by Universal Press Syndicate, which was a very elite syndicate. They only had like 6 or 7 contributors, and they were expecting me to be in dozens, if not hundreds, of newspapers. And I told them it's not going to work. And they said, well, no, but I mean, we've got Buckley and we've got Coulter. And I said, well, that's fine and all. I said, but based on what I understand from my old editor, I'm beyond the acceptable point. They said, oh, just leave it up to us. We've been doing this for, a long time. So, okay, fine. The only paper that they successfully sold the column to was the Dallas Morning News, back when Rod Dreher was the editor. Rod actually picked up the column. They ran it for 1, maybe 2 weeks, and then canceled it. So, there was no way that was ever going to work. And they tried it. I mean, they kept me syndicated for something like 2.5, 3 years. Never, ever sold the column to anyone. And it wasn't because, it was very frustrating for them. I told them that was going to happen. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter how popular the column was at WorldNet Daily. It was the 3rd most popular weekly column behind Pat Buchanan and Ann Coulter. Well ahead of a lot of other people that, you see on Fox and everything. And so you have to understand that there are gatekeepers at every level of the way. Every single level of the way. And so when you look at how it works, now I want you to see something else. Now keep in mind, this is Ben Shapiro, okay? This is Google Trends, Ben Shapiro compared to me on Google Trends dating all the way back to 2004. Now keep in mind that before you go into the whole like, oh, he's jealous sort of thing, please keep in mind that you can find my columns calling out Ben Shapiro as a fake back when he was, before he got to college, while he was writing at WorldNet Daily at the same time that I was. And, okay, we're going to get rid of this guy. He's trying to be distracting. Crazy. I don't know why people do this. Anyhow, so I called out Ben Shapiro back in 2004, back, at the very early edge, the left edge over there of the chart. Okay, so this is what organic growth looks like. Okay? You get little spikes, you get little troughs. This is over an 11-year period. Okay? So 11 years, I'm doing my thing. I've got a syndicated column. Shapiro's doing his thing. He's syndicated by the Creator Syndicate. Now check this out. And this is also just going to show you the difference between organic performance and a made man, a media pushed man. So you saw here before that right up until October 31st, 2015, I'm still more popular, I'm still better known than Ben Shapiro, right? This is from Google. You can look it up yourself. This is worldwide. None of it is my opinion. This is all just a fact, right? And then what happens? Suddenly Shapiro explodes upward. Now keep in mind, Stefan Molyneux, the yellow line, notice how he's kind of right around where I am. And then he becomes a bit more popular because he has a massive YouTube channel of 800,000 subscribers. And then you look at Mike Cernovich. Mike Cernovich has been massively influential the past few years. He's been all over the place. The Atlantic even did a major piece on him, right? So what possibly could explain Ben Shapiro toiling away without too terribly much success for 11 years? Firefall Downfall says, couldn't something viral cause that though? No, absolutely not. Something viral spikes up very, very temporarily and then plunges back down. All right. The thing is, we know who the people are behind them. The guy who's behind Shapiro is a Texas billionaire. All right. That's why there's nothing organic about this. That's why when you look at the videos, it's all, Ben Shapiro does this, Ben Shapiro does that. All they do is push, push, push. The one tweet from Ben Shapiro that completely explodes Democrats' heads and all that sort of thing. A forced meme is one good way to put it. Going viral, you don't stay viral. Watch a video sometime about the some of these people who feature in memes that go massive, that go all the way around the world, and yet they disappear. They're gone. Even someone like Richard Dawkins, who was huge some time ago. If you look at the Google Trends, you'll see that even though he was big for several years, he's gone. He's nowhere near as popular. Yeah, if you want viral, check Rebecca Black. And so, no, Joe Smith said Vox wouldn't go on Fox anyways. Why would he? No, I've been invited on Fox several times, not so much lately, but even back in, I don't know, what was it? It would have been 2006, 2007. I remember Alan Colmes wanted me to come on Hannity and Colmes or something like that. I decided a long time ago I didn't want to be a media whore. I probably should have gotten on YouTube a long time ago, but this is not something that I crave. I'm doing this because my readers repeatedly asked me for years to do this. And finally, I said, okay, I need to pay attention to I need to talk to people where they are. I can't expect them to just read books and so forth. We're in an increasingly post-literate society, so you have to do more than just sit in your cave writing books. So now let's look at another media creature. Now this might surprise you because this is a comparison between Jordan Peterson and myself, right? So keep this in mind when people are saying, oh, you're jealous of Ben Shapiro, oh, you're jealous of Jordan Peterson. Okay. I personally have been bigger than these guys for years, for over a decade. All right? And as I said, I turned away from, I made a choice not to go that route. I didn't want to go that route, and I'll explain why in a minute. It's not just me, though. Have another look. This is Owen Benjamin. Now, this only dates back to April 15th. April 2015. And the blue line is Owen. And it looks like, that's what an organic career looks like. Okay? It goes up, it goes down, there's ebb, and there's flow. Okay, now the other thing that you need to keep in mind is that this is when, and this is very key. Guess what happened in April 2015? That's the reason that I picked it. Do you know what happened in April 2015? Go ahead and guess. Bears? No. What happened in April 2015 is that a Toronto filmmaker, a very well-funded Toronto filmmaker, began making a documentary called The Rise of Jordan Peterson. So they began filming The Rise of Jordan Peterson back in April 2015. So where is the rise? Suddenly you see right at the very end, the last week of September 2016, that's when the push began. And here's what happened as a result. Now, you can compare it to this. This one compares it to me, but you could just as easily compare it to Owen, because Owen and I, that huge explosion, keep in mind, this little one, we're starting the chart here October 2nd, 2016. So this is after this chart. So this chart is like that flat line at the bottom. Okay? So this is, they started filming the documentary about his rise, Jordan Peterson's rise. They started filming it at the beginning of the red line when Owen Benjamin was bigger than him, more popular than him, right? And then, boom, it all starts, and then it explodes here. Because this is how the media does it. You know, this is evidence of the way that they make these things happen. That's why I call them made men. And this happens in every industry. This happens in games. It happens with actors. You know, all of this stuff is inorganic. Now, there's people who try to do this and are unsuccessful, of course. You know, there's no guarantee that it's going to work. You know, Jordan Peterson's been trying to sell out since he was in college, but he didn't have any takers. And then here's the other thing that you may not realize. They've been pushing Jordan Peterson since 2004. Back in 2004, they actually did a 13-part television series. The CBC did a 13-part television series on Maps of Meaning. So the guy is not only not very smart, he's a puppet. You know, and that's why he's so unable to engage in meaningful debate and discussion that isn't controlled. That's why he's spending all of his debates and stuff are either with friendly parties like Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro, people who are fellow made men, or he's doing them with regular members of the media who are talking heads who are really, really unintelligent. There's also reason to believe that whole compelled speech thing and that whole interview with Kathy Newman was a setup. I mentioned the last time, Tucker Carlson talked about how in the green room he would talk to these Democratic celebrities who couldn't talk about the subject at all. And then suddenly when he would sit down with them on camera, they're just slinging comebacks at him and seemingly on top of the subject. And he realized that the whole thing was scripted out on their note card. Now, obviously, Jordan Peterson is not rambling on for 2 hours off of notes. But if you notice, he says the same thing every time. He responds to the same question with the same routine every time, even when it doesn't make sense. Even when he's been asked the same question 50 times, he'll still pull the, well, I just started thinking about that. It's like, no, you fucking liar. You were asked about that a year ago. So all of these guys are fakes. They're essentially actors who play the role of a smart person who is an authority that you should listen to. I mean, that's their whole role. That's what they're raised up to do, because they don't want people listening to where is it? Not that one. I should have labeled these better. The hell is it? Okay. I mean, they don't want people listening to Stefan Molyneux. They don't want people listening to Mike Cernovich. They don't want people listening to Milo or to me. They want you to listen to Ben Shapiro. Now let's get to the answer to the question that I was asked earlier. I was asked, well, what about this thing with why did Rubin and Peterson leave Patreon? Because they do not want a genuinely right-wing alternative to Patreon to arise, because it would blow Patreon away, in the same way that Fox News blew away CNN, ABC, CBS, etc., etc. So, like to do is they like to set up their own opposition. So instead of there being a genuine right-wing alternative to Patreon, they are setting up a fake, conservative alternative to Patreon so that they can continue to deplatform and defund the people that they don't want being followed, becoming popular, and being provided the resources that might take them to a dangerous level. Can't you see? Why do you ask stupid questions? Vox, can't you see? They play both sides and control. That's what I'm telling you. That's why they build up Ben Shapiro in opposition to the New York Times. What they're attempting to do is turn Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin and the intellectual dark web into the official representative of the opposition, even though they fundamentally have much the same perspectives and policies of the left. They're just not quite as crazy. And that's why they're always focusing on left-wing extremes rather than on the substantive matters, because their whole reason for their existence is to make sure that the alternative is not a genuinely dangerous one. Paul says, I think they want to set up their own banking and payment processing system. Well, they have to, because that's what the alternative would have. And so, their idea is to try to bring in the right, bring in most of the right, so that a genuine right-wing alternative can't replace the left-wing competition. You see this same thing with the neocons. The neocons came right out and said the whole reason that we founded the Weekly Standard was to rein in the Republican Party and keep it under control. Vox Day, who is they? Well, I mean, we don't know exactly. I mean, we know, for example, who helped Jordan Peterson get his start. We know who owns CAA. We know the executives at CAA. We know the guy who funds Ben Shapiro. Just like, for example, everybody knew that the Mercers were behind Milo a year and a half ago. And then they withdrew their backing, and you saw what happened to Milo. Kaboom. All right. Organic support, or just genuine popularity, does not look like this red line here. Okay? Remember, the yellow line, see that little yellow line that looks kind of insignificant? That's Stefan Molyneux. That's 800,000 YouTube followers. He's huge. He has far more people watching his podcast. If you look at the numbers that Molyneux does on his podcast, it is far greater than most of the people who are on mainstream cable news television. If you look at the number of viewers that Molyneux has, it's comparable to the number of YouTube views that Peterson has. And yet, where's all the media push? Where's all the media coverage? Okay, granted, he doesn't like to talk to them. But the point is that you need to be paying attention, and you need to stop thinking that everybody thinks that these people are so great. They don't. It's fraudulent. And so, Greg Thompson says, Peterson admitted that he launched himself into the public sphere. That's not true. He was launched into there. He was launched by someone else. Let's see here. Big Bear got drunk last night. Well, a lot of people did. Let's see. Stefan has turned to his roots, aka race and IQ. It's. Let's see. My bullshit alarm went bonkers as soon as Dave Rubin and the word intellectual were mentioned in the same sentence. Yeah, I've never paid any attention whatsoever to Dave Rubin. And it's true. I don't do media anymore. There's no point in it. I have no interest in talking to anyone in the media. Whenever I talk to someone in the media, half the time it ends up turning out poorly for them. The last proper media interview that I did was a 17,000 word interview with the editor-in-chief and lead reporter of Bleeding Cool, which is one of the larger comic sites. And the interview was up for about 12 hours. Then it was taken down, and the editor-in-chief lost his job. So, I'm not I'm not planning on continuing to do that. I understand we have greatness in the house. Jay Dyer, welcome. I don't know much about you, but everything I've heard is good. So thanks for stopping by. Let's see here. How I wish I could go back to the days when I trusted them and thought the most prominent people were there because they were the best and they cared about us and their country. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but they don't. And I would say that, like, who do you trust? I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. I trust Milo in certain circumstances and for certain things. I trust Owen Benjamin to speak his mind. I trust. Who do I really trust? I trust my VFM. I trust the Dread Ilk. I really trust all the alt hero backers. I don't think a lot of you realize how intense it was when Indiegogo deplatformed and retro canceled Alt Hero Q, and we managed to more than replace the entire campaign in a single day with a stealth campaign. We actually could have just done it for a single day, but we technically ran it for 2 days. But the level of enthusiasm and the level of discipline was awesome. And there's going to be a lot more there. Indiegogo is a crowdfunding platform that is so SJW controlled that the woman who headed up Trust and Safety and was responsible, we believe, for retro canceling the campaign, she left Indiegogo 2 or 3 weeks later and went to Google, where she now runs one of their Trust and Safety. So I think that yeah, we don't do Dread Ilk names. Let's just say that our mythos is very different than the bear mythos. It's a little bit more extreme. JBP burst onto the scene with his anti-gender pronoun stance. Was that part of his handler's plan? Absolutely. I strongly suspect that the whole thing was a setup. It looks very, very dubious. Hey Jay, shoot me an email and I'll email you a copy of the Jordanetics book. If nothing else, it should amuse you. I mean, the thing is, given your areas of interest, I think that you'll smell the sulfur as readily as I do, and maybe even like Milo. Maybe even like Milo, who I have to give Milo credit. He definitely sniffed out the sulfur before I did. I thought he was just a, intellectual charlatan and made man. I had no idea that he was involved in some of the stuff that he appears to be. Let's see. You can't become Dread Ilk. Dread Ilk are the old school. You can become Ilk. But the VFM are set and numbered. There's 535 of them, and that's all. What is up with this guy who's like obsessed with my library? What a freak. Oh, okay. Jay says that he did. That he called him out too. Anyhow, but seriously though, check out. Like I said, email me and I'll send it to you. But it's some of the stuff I guarantee will surprise even you. You have to play Madden 92. Exactly. Do you think Jordan Peterson is some kind of motivational speaker because most of them are 101 BS? No, I think what he is he is a replacement for the new atheists. The new atheists have failed. They were pushing secular humanism and nobody bought it. Nobody bought into secular humanism. And so they need a religion of meaning. They need a spirituality of meaning. And that's what Jordan Peterson is there to provide. Over under on how, why, when Jordan Peterson, Shapiro, and the IDW and their alt Patreon platform collapse. Well, the thing is that when you've got billionaires behind you, you can last for a long time. There's no telling what, they will last until their backers decide that they're not sufficiently successful, and then they'll go away. I think Shapiro will probably go away first because he doesn't have anything. Everything that he has is fake. With Peterson, at least there is this spiritual vacuum that he can fill with his nonsense. There's no reason for Shapiro to be around. He's nothing but a gatekeeper and a distraction. Peterson is acting more hardcore in recent interviews, maybe because of Jordanetics. Yeah, he's very aware of it. They are all very aware of what they would describe as the threat from the right. And so, it will be interesting to see, if and when they ever make reference to any of the specific arguments in there. If you notice, they haven't. This is interesting. This guy points out Shapiro has 400,000 YouTube subscribers. Yeah, he does. But check this out. Look at this. This is really astonishing when you think about it. Shapiro has 400,000 YouTube subscribers. You see the little yellow line? That's Stefan Molyneux. He has more than 800,000. Gordon Runkle. Shapiro has been selected to be the new Buckley. Well, ironically, I was selected to be the new Buckley by Universal Press Syndicate, but we all know how that went. So, but yeah, Shapiro is been selected. It was supposed to be Jonah Goldberg, but he couldn't do it. He wasn't able. And so Shapiro has been selected to try to be the next gatekeeper for the right. And it's not going to work because he isn't intelligent enough. He just doesn't have what it takes. Bill Buckley could actually go ahead and debate people like Gore Vidal, right? Shapiro, he can't even begin to, he can't debate Milo, he can't debate Cernovich, he can't debate me, he can't debate Molyneux. There's no way. And so there's nothing organic about these guys. They are made men. Let's see. Does the interest over time represent Google searches? I believe so. Yeah, this is my grandfather's chair. How much do you trust Stream.me to not get converged? Well, they're not converged now, but anything can get converged. But I don't think that they are inclined to, because if they converge, there's no reason for them to exist. And so, by the way, if you're not following Owen Benjamin and myself on Stream.me yet, and Jay, I don't know if you've got a channel on Stream.me, but you should. This stream is actually simul-streamed on YouTube and Stream.me. And so I would strongly recommend that all of you follow us on Stream.me, because if the deplatformings continue, you have to expect that these channels are going to disappear. And so, we're prepared for that, but you need to be aware of it and know where to find us. So, another thing that you can do is subscribe to the Castalia House book club, because that way we have it all set up so that if anything ever happens to the blog, if anything ever happens to the channel, everybody knows immediately. I mean, keep in mind, we're so organized and disciplined that we managed to replace a $100,000 crowdfunding campaign in 24 hours. Okay? We don't do anything at all, without planning for enemy action of every kind. And so, that's just something that you have to think that way now, because all of us who are even minor, petty, trivial, near irrelevant public figures, all of us are targeted and under the eye of Sauron. And that's why I always ask you guys, and I always appreciate it, that you guys pray for me, that you pray for my family, that you pray for the people around us, because that's what matters. This is ultimately, underneath it all, this is a spiritual war. I'm not a theologian. I don't consider my opinions to be definitive on religious matters. I have my opinions, I have my faith, but I am perfectly aware of the possibility that I'm incorrect. But my focus is on the cultural war, because that's where I'm comfortable. I'm a former techno rave band guy. I like I like to know where my limitations are. What's the best rhetorical argument against diversity and globalism? I would say that if you don't believe in exterminating animal species, why would you want to? If you don't want to eliminate animal diversity, why would you ever want to eliminate nations? How's that going to be good? How's it going to work? All you really do is set yourself up for a competition where the very worst and most ruthless are the winners. I don't know who David Knight is, but apparently he's in need of prayers for healing. So, Vox, do you accept Christ as your Savior? Jesus Christ of Nazareth. I have. I mean, do you accept? I did years ago when I was 27. Rebecca says, I read Moira Grayland's book. Wow, I recommend it to everyone. And you can get the audiobook now on archavencomics.com at our store there. Vox, is your idea on omnivolence? Oh, I see. I said omniviolence. Is your idea on omnivolence taken to see God as consistent with forbidding knowledge to Adam and Eve? No, I don't think that that's necessarily related. I think it's about not limiting God. To say that God must be a certain way is a limitation. I think that God can know or not know whatever he wants. I prefer the concept of divine volitions rather than divine omniscience. Let's see. Oh, David Knight is InfoWars. Okay, yeah. I mean, then if he's not well, please go ahead and pray for him. I see heart attack surgery. PragerU is not great. PragerU is ridiculous. Yes, I was baptized. Let's see. There's a question here that I got distracted from when I saw that. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not a fan of PragerU at all. Way too anti-nationalist. The culture war is going to turn into a real war by 2033. That's what I assume. Let's see. Did Jordan Peterson comment on your book? No, but some of his actions seem to be pretty driven by a response to them. Vox, since you were into the rave scene, all I'll say is they tell you not to do drugs for a good reason. It's, let's see. Why did you accept Christ? Because I believe that Jesus Christ is the only way to stand against the evil of a fallen world. Okay. Oh, so somebody said that I've now officially destroyed Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro for them. Good. You shouldn't be following people like that. I mean, they're fakes. They're phonies. What's your opinion on Molyneux's universally preferable behavior, the rational proof of secular ethics? I'm extremely dubious about it, but I haven't paid enough attention to criticize it. Would you be willing to help restructure Christianity? I don't think Christianity needs restructuring. I think maybe the church organizations do, and we certainly could use a new reformation, but Christianity is. The truth is. Yeah. Prager had a TV show where he positioned himself as a passionate centrist. Yeah, Prager's another fake, guys. He's not a bad man per se, but he's definitely somebody who is involved in gatekeeping the right. That's his job. That's his chief role, is to keep people from going nationalist and to try to distract people from Christianity. The two things that the would-be rulers of the world and the actual spiritual ruler of the world, the two things they fear most are, number one, Christianity, and number two, nationalism. They hate both. If you remember all the way back in Genesis, talking about the Tower of Babel, the globalists have been trying to do the same thing and extinguish the nations. God created the nations, and God predicts in the Bible, it's prophesied in the Bible, that the nations will survive until the end. And that, but that they will be diluted and that they will be attacked, which is exactly what we're seeing now. Kind of remarkable when you think about how long ago that document was written. PragerU had a video saying why you should be a nationalist or something along. Watch. If you watch it a little more closely, you'll see what he's doing. Let's see here. How does the left keep winning when they won't even show up to fight? Nobody defends their ideas, yet somehow they dominate politics and academia because they do a great job of outgrouping. Think about it. The churches are terrible at patrolling their memberships. We welcome everyone. And if you're willing to work, then we'll just give you all the control and power and we'll stop paying attention to what the Bible says, and we'll anoint a female preacher, and then we'll start preaching about goddesses and how homosexuality is not a sin anymore. And why did everyone stop coming? The right, as a general rule, does a terrible, terrible, terrible job of keeping out infiltrators. All the animations in that PragerU video were multiracial. Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar with Dennis Prager. He was a contributor at WorldNet Daily when I was there. I was never impressed by his writing then. I think I even wrote a column. I'd have to look it up, but I think I might have even written a column about him, which I think was a criticism, but I honestly can't remember. I vaguely remember writing about him once or twice. So, have you noticed Prager and other conservatives are trying to create their own version of nationalism and populism to the public? Yeah, what Prager and those other conservatives are doing is exactly what Peterson and Rubin are doing with the Patreon thing. They're trying to provide a fake alternative so that to distract people away from the real alternative. You know, it's not going to work, but it did work for many years. First with the Buckley conservative movement, which won out over the John Birch, genuine conservative movement. And then the neocons managed to capture the Republican Party. So, someone said, I don't think that he's an ambitious and malevolent the way Shapiro is. He's more of a naive boomer. Probably. I mean, I don't actually get a particularly negative vibe from Prager. It's just that the stuff that he says is so obviously wrong so often. So you may remember Prager doing a sandbag SJW job on Bob Grant. I don't think I wrote about that, but I do remember that, and I remember being bothered by that. What's wrong if his video is multiracial? Because he's pushing the SJW thing. He's pushing a false picture of society. A multiracial society is a society that is going to descend into civil war. It's not a good thing. What about Mark Levine? Levine's the same type of thing. I mean, he's better in a number of ways, but again, the where you can always see them, where they will always draw the line, is where it comes to genuine Christianity and genuine nationalism. Anytime you hear anybody use the word Judeo-Christianity, they're dishonest and they're a fake. At best, they've been misled and confused. But it's a bullshit concept. Vox, would you ever audition for the role of an Indian in a spaghetti western? I would never audition for any role in anything. I'm not an actor. I have no interest in that. I should mention Owen is going to stream at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So Owen will be streaming in 2 hours. If you want to catch that one, the Bears, I'm sure you'll all want to get on for that. Is Michael Savage any better in your opinion? Michael Savage must be better because they wouldn't be kicking him out for Ben Shapiro if he wasn't. Now, I don't take him particularly seriously, but he's better than Shapiro, no question. Levine sold out to Glenn Beck. Yeah, that tells you all you need to know right there. I hate it when they say Jews and Christians worship the same God. That is a lie. Absolutely. Ask a rabbi. Ask these guys. Ask Ben Shapiro. Ben, do you worship God, the Father of Jesus Christ? Shapiro might be, he might lie about it. But, if you're just talking to somebody, if you're ever talking to a rabbi who's not in the public eye, he'll tell you what the truth is. Vox, I suppose you don't see Christian nationalism as compatible with Zionism. Well, it depends what you mean by Zionism. If you mean the right of Israel to exist, Christian nationalism is absolutely compatible with that. I support Israel's existence. I support their right to exist. I'm privileged to edit and publish and be friends with the great military historian Martin Van Creveld. I know a lot about Israeli history. Are there problems with it? Sure, but there are with every country. But in terms of the Zionism, where you're saying the reason America exists is to fund Israel. Well, no, obviously I'm not down with that. Anyhow, the time is up. Thank you for tuning in. We've been talking about the Made Men, And this is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day. Have a good evening.